All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. I want to welcome everyone. I am Sharice Magoon, and I work in the Department of Lifelong Learning at the UT Health San Antonio School of Nursing. I'll be moderating the session today. You were sent an email this morning from Cynthia Gutierrez, and at the bottom of the email was information about completing your evaluation and getting your CE certificate. So if you have any questions in regards to that process, please go ahead and email Cindy. She'll type her email address in the chat, and then you can contact her after the session's over. This symposium is sponsored by Texas Health and Human Services Commission in partnership with UT Health San Antonio School of Nursing. Texas recognizes June as Neonatal Abstinence Syndrome Awareness Month. You can learn more by reading House Bill number 405. Please keep your camera and microphones off during the presentation. And if you'll hold your questions, if you want to type them in as you're thinking of them in the chat, and then we'll get to those when the session's over. And when the session's over, if you have a question, you can type it in the chat or you can unmute yourself at that time. I want to introduce Dee Wysocki. She's the regional manager in Texas for Oxford House. She started her journey with Oxford House in 2006 as a member in Dallas. Then in 2011, she was hired on with Oxford House and worked in New Jersey until 2016 when she made her way back to Texas. She is passionate about helping others and the reunification of mothers and their children. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharice. I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to be here today. Again, my name is Dee Wysocki. I am a woman in long-term recovery. And what that means for me is that I have not found it necessary to pick up a drink or a drug since February the 21st of 06. And for that, I am truly, truly grateful. I am so honored to be here today to present to you about Oxford and a little bit about what it's done for me and what it can do for women that are struggling out there that need a safe, sober living environment. I've initiated a few slides with some of our women with our children in their homes. So I hope that y'all can see the interaction that we have, the loving that we have inside of our homes. This is Oxford House and pregnant or parenting women enduring. And I love the enduring. It's continuing or long lasting. So that kind of opens the door of where we go with this. Oxford House is forever if we need them to be. Let me go to the next slide. There we go. A little bit of history about Oxford House is it was started in 1975 in Silver Springs, Maryland. There was a group of guys that were renting or that were in a recovery home, and it was subject to be shut down. And these guys got together and decided that they were going to start this beautiful thing that we today call Oxford House. Our founder, Paul Malloy, was very imaginative and was able to get to where we are today. The first Oxford House was established in 1975 in Silver Springs, Maryland. From the beginning, the group rejected ownership of any property and continues to rent, not purchase, single-family houses in good neighborhoods to establish new Oxford houses. In the years between 1975 and 1988, 18 houses were established by and for recovering addicts. The principles of replication and guidelines for running a group home from recovering alcoholics and substance abusers embodied the Oxford House Manual, had become institutionalized in Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And in 1987, a house for 10 men was rented in Bethlehem, PA. So that just tells you that we started in one individualized house. We now have approximately 4,000 houses throughout the nation and in 5 different countries. It is a grassroots organization.
Sorry, you're not supposed to be muted.
That's okay. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay. Our primary purpose. What is our primary purpose? What are we looking to do? Oxford House is a concept in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction in its simplest forms. And Oxford House describes a democratically run, self-supporting, and drug-free home. Parallel to this concept lies the organizational structure of Oxford House Inc. This publicly supported nonprofit 501c3 corporation is an umbrella organization which provides the network connecting all Oxford houses and allocates resources to duplicate the Oxford House concept where needs arise. This is basically what our concept is that we're here to provide housing for recovering addicts and alcoholics, mothers and children's, men and children. The diversity that we have within an Oxford House is what makes the Oxford House. We look to provide safe, sober living environment. And from that one house in 1975, we still continue to look for the need and find the need and grow the need. What is the Oxford House structure? This is the Oxford House Network, a self-run structure. The number of residents in a house may range from 6 to 15. There are houses for men, houses for women, and houses which accept women and children and men with children. And I say that because it talks about the democratic process, the self-supporting of the house, is the houses themselves, the members themselves find the need. So we may have a woman that comes in pregnant, and it may be a woman house, and they decide they want to change their charter to a women and children's house. That's the glory of the membership inside the house, in finding what their members need inside their house and expanding that need. We have to have 6 for that dynamic to work. My experience is that if we have 8 people, it works a little bit better. Personalities stay out of the way. But we definitely encourage the democratic process. For myself, coming into recovery, I didn't know that I had a voice or that my voice really mattered. Today, learning from that is that I have a voice, and I've learned how to utilize my voice in a different manner. 3 or more of the Oxford houses within a 100-mile radius comprise an Oxford House chapter. A representative of each house in the chapter meets with the others on a monthly basis to exchange information, to seek resolution of problems at a particular house, and to express the chapter's vote on a larger issue. I implemented this just to, we talk about it in recovery all the time, is that you need that network, you need that built-in network. Get out there and find you a network that's going to support your recovery. What I found in Oxford House is there's a built-in network if I choose to use it. It doesn't solely just stay with my house and the members within my house, but there's surrounding houses within that area or through the state or even through the nation that I collectively utilize in my recovery. So when we talk about the self-run structure of it, is that everyone participates in the home. Everyone has a vote. Everyone has a voice as to what happens in the dynamic of their home. Which we find is very, very important, especially in recovery, whether we're having struggles. I may not know how to express those struggles, but in our business meetings, in that structure, it kind of helps get those individuals inside the community to help with those. If a house can't resolve an issue, they go to a chapter. The chapter actually has a regional association that they can go to. So there's levels of structure within the Oxford House model that there's no problem that can't be solved. It's knowing the tools and how to utilize those tools in order to get the solution to that problem. Membership. The number one bullet point I want to talk about is the oxfordhousevacancies.com. This links to our houses nationwide. Anywhere there's an Oxford House, you can go to this website. You can click what origin you may need to, what gender you may need to, and it's going to show you exactly where those vacancies are and where you can find placement for members inside homes. The one requirement of an Oxford House charter is that the new members must be approved by 80% of the existing members in the particular house. And approval by 80% of existing members is required because it is extremely important for all of the members living in an Oxford House to feel comfortable with a newcomer. As a practical matter, existing Oxford houses have denied membership to very few individuals. This sometimes may be the case. My experience was not that. I got into my first house, but my experience was I didn't make it into that first house. I quickly found out that my behaviors were not adequate for that particular house, and I had to go to another house. I tell any newcomer that comes to me looking for an Oxford house to interview at 3 different houses, maybe even 4. Find out what your needs are for your recovery. We know what our needs are. We know that we need accountability. We know that we need camaraderie. Do y'all have house meetings? Do you eat with one another? Those interviews, I tell anybody looking for an Oxford house, those interviews are not just for the house. They're for you. The most important person is the newcomer. It is very important that we educate them, that they have a voice from the interview process to their duration in Oxford House. When they don't receive 80% of the vote, that just may be that may not be the fit for them, and that we encourage them and never allow anyone to walk away with other resources, whether it be other Oxford houses or other sober livings, whatever their needs are. We educate the houses. Who qualifies is a huge question that we get asked all the time. If you have a willingness to stay sober, you qualify to come into our home. We have no discrimination on whoever wants to come in. There is no clean time requirement in our homes. However, there are medical situations that we may reference out that they go to prior to coming to our home. But anybody qualifies to be inside of an Oxford house. You just have to go through the interview process and be accepted through the 80% process. And anybody that you refer to us, if they don't get accepted, just encourage them to go into another interview. I can help in that. I have staff that can help in that. It sometimes gets really defeative, if you will, that it's we didn't get in, right? Cost. What does it cost to live in an Oxford house? There is a huge range. It ranges in Texas alone anywhere from $135 to $160 a week. There is some additional cost that may be required up front. It may be a non-refundable move-in fee plus your 2 weeks worth of EES. It's really depending on the house. And those are the things that you want to make sure that anyone that you send to an Oxford house are asking up front. Though the cost of that, what does that cover, right? That covers the expenses it cost. The expenses it costs to run the house. So it takes the rent, all the utilities, some cleaning supplies, and sometimes houses have prudent reserves so that they have the family dinners. That's all divided amongst the members of the house, and that's how they determine what their weekly share of expenses. That can vary depending on the membership inside the house. They may lose 2 people and their weekly share of expenses may increase, much like most of us when we get a mortgage or we have our own bills, and times maybe get high, gas prices may be out of this world. We have to find different ways to cut costs so that we continue.
Somebody asked what EES stands for.
Good question. Equal shared of expenses. So the equal shared of expenses is your weekly, if you will, rent. It's the equal shared of expenses it costs to run your house. Meaning that they take that money and they say we have 6 people, so this is what it's going to cost each week for us to live here. The mothers with the children or the men with the children. Sometimes that is an additional cost. It generally ranges anywhere from $25 to $30 a week. And that's just to help with the electric and maybe the water that they may use. Not a huge cost for the little ones that come in. I spoke about the financial requirements for the entry. What I want to kind of throw into this, if you have someone who may be financially incapable of coming up with that entry fee, there are houses that will put individuals on payment plans and allow them to come in and work through that. Or we have resources that will help with that initial coming into the house, that we can get them the resources they need to help with that financial burden in the beginning. Maintaining finances and what does that look like? We teach the one thing that Oxford House taught me more than anything is how to have a mortgage, how to pay my bills on time. I didn't know how to do that prior to coming to Oxford House. I knew how to get evicted from apartments. That was very easy for me. But I did not know how to maintain my finances. And so the houses, some individuals may get behind on rent. They may have hardships with jobs. Again, it's that built-in network that we have with Oxford House that we will give them the resources to find those finances to be able to get them in. They're much like financial contracts. There's ways to work with them. And then we have the financial assistance. And the one thing that I want to definitely drill home on the financial assistance is I myself, first coming into Oxford House, had some financial assistance. And I was very grateful for that. And it lasted for about 30 days. And after that 30 days, they were like, you need to get up and get a job. So it was, what I learned from that experience is financial assistance is definitely sometimes needed, but we can also hinder the growth of membership inside our house if that assistance is there and continues to be there. And we are a working environment. So if we're continuing to assist in financial means, we're not seeing the growth that they need through recovery. So financial assistance is good. And we do have, we have several reentry committees throughout the state that actually help indigent or individuals without any financial means to get into the houses. So we see the need and we're able to help them get that, but it doesn't extend over a long period of time. How long is the stay? Luckily for me, there was no time restraint because I needed some time. There is no time restrictions. You can come and stay as little as you need or as long as you need. Behaviors with both the mother and the child. It's been my experience, and I've been doing this for a little while, and it's been my experience that through the trauma and through what it takes for us to get to recovery, that we don't come in here as built-in mothers. And so with our mommy and me children, there's a lot of our houses that have outside resources that will have the mothers go to parenting classes. And the houses help with the child's growth because the children are traumatized as well. So we have with our mommy and me houses that foundation laid. We actually have mommy and me or parent and child trainings that we do on a regular basis to kind of help these houses develop what does it look like. Because we do have some in our mommy and me houses, or our parent and child houses is what we call them now, is we do have women without their children. And sometimes that can be a challenge for us. Or we have women in there that haven't got their children yet and are having to deal with somebody else's child. So we have to make sure that during your stay that there is a pattern of growth with your behavior in your parenting skills. That's why we are connected very closely with outside resources that will help in whatever needs we may need. The three major things that are required within our house is absolute abstinence. We do have a zero tolerance policy, and that's for the protection of the membership that are left behind in the house that did not return to drug use and alcohol. We have an obligation of financial responsibility. We are self-governed, and with that, we have our own financial security within our homes. So if somebody is not paying, the house as a whole is kind of carrying that weight and could lead into the house having some financial problems to where we can't help the mothers coming in after them. And behaviors are definitely key. I know for me, returning to family after getting sober, I could put the drugs and alcohols down, no problem. But learning how to live was what was different. So the progress in behavior is a must inside of an Oxford house. The serenity within the house it allows us to grow within the house. So it's very important that those behaviors that you're working some type of program of recovery, whatever that may look like for you, as long as the behaviors show that you are actually growing within your recovery community. And then shared a little bit about the history in the beginning, and I kind of want to share about what's present today. Nationwide, we have 466 women and children homes, which provides 3,773 beds. Texas currently has 35 women and children houses with 281 beds. And our statistics show that individuals who stay 12 to 18 months have an 87% success rate. The young lady with her little boy here in this picture, I started her with the beginning and I wanted to close with her. She came to us 5 years ago on a CPS case and had those behaviors, many struggles in and out. One house did not work for her. She went into another one. She is now almost 4 years sober, living with her son in one of our houses. He had actually gone through some medical conditions to where he is now deaf. And we've been able to walk through this process with her to be able to support her through some very traumatic experiences with her and her son. And I wanted to share that with everyone today because she is very dear, and both of them are very dear to my heart and to everybody in the recovery community, but she is definitely a success story for us. She's been with us for 5 years and she continues to stay with us and is remarkable. So I know that this works. This works. And Sharice, I guess we can open it up for questions.
Okay, perfect. Let's see if anybody wants to type it in the chat or unmute themselves. We welcome any thoughts, questions, anybody that wants to share any information about where they're coming from and who they are and how this would apply to them. Please feel free.
Nobody has any questions?
Okay, we have one in the chat. Let's see here. Get this ball rolling. It says, do you know if there are going to be any of these Oxford homes in the Lubbock area?
Specifically to women and children's, because we do have men and women houses in Lubbock.
It says the
Okay.
ones we have don't allow children. So I'm assuming, yeah, they're looking for women and children.
We have just established 2 women houses in Lubbock that are stabilized and looking into possibly opening the next house to be a women and children's house. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the next question is if a resident were to return to use, what support and resources are offered?
That's an excellent question. So we are connected with detox units or treatment facilities that know our history and where we are. And we automatically give them we give them access to those resources. Sometimes they take those resources and sometimes they just want to go. So there's a newcomer packet that they fill out prior to moving in. And that gives them like a relapse contingency plan. What do they want to do when they move, if in the event that something happens? So we have that contingency plan filled out prior to any things happening.
All right, next question. Do you see a trend that there is less CPS involvement for these women?
That's a hard question to answer because we have a lot of involvement with CPS. It's really a case by case scenario. We do a lot of work with CPS. So CPS outcomes for these families. It is a better outcome for the CPS caseworker, CPS cases, I would personally say, because I have, such as our young lady here, I have watched her go through her CPS case with ups and downs, and the structure was Oxford House behind it, that she was able to have that foundation to where she could build that rapport she needed to make her case valid.
Very good. Is there any requirement that a resident must be on medication before entering the home?
No, we don't have any requirement on medications. How we handle that within our homes is that the house can ask for them to count their medication if they feel their behaviors are off, but there is no requirement as far as medications. We're open to any medication inside of an Oxford House.
Okay, is there an age limit for the child residents?
Yes, ma'am, there is. Upon interviewing, the child cannot be over 10. And let me also add that there is, because of square footage in the homes, there is a restriction on how many children, right? The house may not be able to fit one mother with 4 children. It's depending on what the layout of the house is. So that's a great question, actually.
All right. What requirements are part of staying there? Example, AA meetings, attendance, employment, personal visits, accountability.
Okay, that the requirement, most houses require them to go to X amount of 12-step meetings and or be working a recovery program. I kind of touched based on that as far as the behaviors. For me, if I was not working a program of recovery, then the behaviors would show themselves. So there is requirements in most of our houses that they attend 4 or 5 meetings a week. And what that looks like for them as far as it's, there's so many pathways to recovery out there. They just need to be working on themselves to be better than where they came when they came in.
Okay, we have a comment. Somebody is in the chat if you want to look at it and you're interested in getting a scholarship for admission fees to Oxford House. The information's in the chat box. Next question is, what resources are available to parents who go through financial difficulties? Do they get extra time to pay if they lose their jobs or financial support?
Absolutely. So the houses, when they're having a weekly business meeting and they're very tuned into where the individuals are. If somebody lost their job, they're going to give them some time to find that job and work with them financially on what that looks like. That comes within the house. If they're 30 days behind, 60 days behind, that may be problematic for the house. And that's why we have the outside resources that may be able to help them maybe get some assistance for that week. So it varies on the situation, but we do offer some assistance in helping them to find their job and get back on track.
Okay. How long does a person have to be out of the house before coming back into the home after use? If they're only able to have detox for 5 days of treatment, can they come back?
It depends on the house itself. What we encourage the houses is to set that standard of what stable sobriety looks like for them as a house. That varies from house to house. The 5-day detox may work for one house and it may not work for another house. It's really up to the house and what their standard, what it looks for them as returning to sound sobriety. I've seen very unique things come out of houses and what they look like. They may take them to meetings for 2 weeks. It varies from house to house.
Okay. Another question. It says, I currently have a patient staying at the Oxford House in San Antonio. If needed, would employees working with this patient call me with any concerns or issues in regards to her? Would I be able to donate clothes, shoes, etc.?
You definitely could donate anything that you would like. We take donations all the time. But as far as employee, we really don't have employees that work with individuals within the houses. It's the membership working within the houses. So what I would do and we've dealt with this, especially like in CPS cases or probation officers, parole officers, is get to know the rest of the members inside the house, the president of the house or their local chapter, to be able to help in the best way that you can help that client that you may have inside the home.
And Nancy, I see Nancy's camera's on. I didn't know if Nancy had a question on your iPhone there, ma'am. Oh, she turned it off. I have a question. What I just was thinking here, what's the for visitors, like having say
Great
your
question.
mom's in town or
in our parent and child homes, we do not have any overnight stays. And we do that for the simple fact that child is the most important person in our home. In most of our women and children, guests can come, parents can come anytime they want to come and visit their individuals. It is a family, so we want that family dynamic. It's just in our parent and child's, we don't have any overnight guests. In our women's and men's houses, they're allowed to have 3 nights over or 3 nights out, but they have to be in the house more than they're out of the house.
All right. Any other questions? Anybody want to type in the chat or unmute? Please feel free. These are great.
Hi, this is Yolanda Ross from Houston, Texas, Santa Maria Hostel. So I may have 2 potential clients that may benefit from Oxford House in Houston. Both of my clients have children under the age of 1. One may be financially able to pay. One doesn't have any income at all. Any suggestions?
Absolutely. I'm going to put in the chat, if you will, the outreach worker that's out there. Or if you want to, I've put my number and my email in there. If you want to email me, I can get you connected to both the outreach workers that work in Houston that have those resources to be able to help her financially get into the home.
Please,
Absolutely.
please. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would love to get them connected with you.
Karen, you put a question in the chat, men and children. That might have been to a previous comment. Can you just elaborate on what your question is?
This is Stephanie Sawyer with CASA in Corpus Christi. I have a question.
Okay.
We have a case with a mom who's in, I believe, a women's house. Last time we were in court, the judge is wanting to give her overnight visits of her children that are still in a foster home. Can she go to a women and children's home prior to getting her children back so that she can have overnight visitation with them, or can she have overnight visitation with them in just the women's house?
She can have overnight visitation in the women's house while the children are there. Now, when the children are there, there cannot be any other overnight guests. But I've dealt with a case similar to that. She started in a women's house, and we followed her journey through CPS and her overnight visits and her visitations. And then she went on to a mommy and me home afterwards.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Karen is asking, do you have men and children's houses? And I do remember you saying that. Can you talk about that and how that is? Because that's very interesting.
Well, recently they started in Washington and it became just a huge thing. So we have recently in Texas, I think we have 5 of those parent and the men and children's homes. And again, it was the membership within the house finding out that their family member, their kids needed somewhere to go. And we currently turned 2 houses in the Dallas area into men and children's houses because the need is there. Sometimes the man is the only caretaker for them. And so we wanted to be able to provide that. It's the same guidelines as the women and children's houses. There's no overnight guest and they have their own specific rules that they follow within the house so that we can ensure the protection of the children.
Okay, thank you. Someone is asking, in the children's homes, how do you make sure there are no predators?
Well, we do that through the interview process, right? We do ask if they have 2 conviction, and then that's an arson, or if they are a registered sex offender. So those questions are asked within the interview process inside the home.
Thank you. All right, any more questions? These are great.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If a parent, and if it's asked already, I missed it, I'm sorry. But if a parent slips up, are they kicked out that day? Or do y'all work with them?
No, they do have a certain time period that they have to get out. Usually, and I shouldn't use that language, not get out, that we have to find somewhere else for them to go. Their resource, they move in with a recovery contingent plan. So in the event that a relapse should happen or should occur, they have a contingency plan in place that we can follow with them and helping them get to where they need to go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. There are no family options.
Okay. What the question was, is there a family option, example, 2 parents in recovery with children?
Yes. No, we don't. I'm not ready to sign up for co-ed houses. So unfortunately, we do not have the family option. I know that is desperately in need and I get calls about it all the time. But we don't have that.
Okay, with rents raising, has there been talk of purchasing homes?
No, we will never purchase a home. We are an umbrella of a 501(c), and the house themselves are the individual homes. They're self-supporting in every aspect of it. From the time that we find the houses, the membership is involved in that. So we will never own a house.
Okay, so the next question is, how long does it generally take to get someone approved and into a house?
Houses generally have a 24-hour turnaround, if not the day of the interview. I've seen houses that have done phone interviews that they put them on mute and vote right then. So a 24, 48, depending on their interview process. From their interview process, it takes anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to find out.
They said, wow, that's fabulous.
Thank you. That's where, and I can't emphasize enough with the vacancy website, and kind of want to touch on that a little bit. There's 2 phone numbers on there. There's a landline number, and this day and age, we don't know how to use landlines. So I always encourage everyone to use the second number. It's attached to someone's name. So it's attached to somebody individually inside the home. And it also, on that website, it will show you generally the days of their house meetings. And that's generally the day that they do their interview process. So, and this is always a question that arises, is that emergency situations. I have watched houses that will couch individuals so that they can wait till the interview process. Or you can call the house and tell them the emergency situation and see if they can call an emergency interview. There are houses that do those emergency interviews. So if you had somebody tomorrow, there's a good possibility we could get them a house the same day.
Okay, I'm going on as my alternate stuff because my computer has frozen. Let me see here. I've got this. Let's see, chat. Okay, so I think I missed this question, but how young can a person be to be able to be accepted, and how much do they have to pay? I'm assuming that's an adult.
Yes. We have had some 17-year-old children come in, and I say children because they're still underage, and as far as Texas go, and we just require the parents to sign off on that for liability purposes. So realistically, it's 18, but we have had 17-year-old children that have come in.
Are there any homes in the Rio Grande Valley?
No, not yet.
All right, any more questions?
We do not have those just yet.
I'm sure there's a big need
Yes,
in that
ma'am.
area.
Yes, ma'am.
How about New Braunfels?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We do have them in New Braunfels.
Is there like a map that you have that people can access maybe?
We are actually working on that map, but again, I can refer back to that vacancy website. It's very easy to navigate. You can just put in the state, the county that you're looking in, and it'll pop up if we have any in those counties and or surrounding counties.
All right. Are there any plans on opening any homes in the Rio
Yes,
Grande
ma'am.
Valley?
We have definitely looked into the Rio Grande Valley quite recently. So I don't know what that's going to look like. If you would like to put your information in the chat, I can take it and definitely have the outreach worker in that specific area to come and meet with you and see what that looks like.
They said thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
have
still
another
taking
question.
questions.
For whatever reason, have any of the homes ever had to close their doors?
We sometimes have to close our doors, and that's an excellent question, right? Because I I'd like to think that we're the best thing since sliced bread, but things happen. Sometimes it's due to landlord issues, that landlords are just not having the upkeep with their homes. But nothing, as far as closing the doors, it may be a financial burden on a house, or it just doesn't fit our model anymore. Nothing to the extent that outside of those parameters.
Okay, thank you.
We still have time. Any final thoughts, questions? Oh, here we go. Please include me on any plans to open Oxford House in the Rio Grande Valley. They gave their information.
Perfect.
I could share this chat with you so you can contact people.
Thank you, Linda. That would be awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
There
All
any
right,
more-
we'll wait about 60 more seconds if anybody wants to unmute or give a final question. All right, well, we'll wrap it up. We really appreciate you being here, Dee. It was wonderful, and the work you're doing is so important and so important to the NAS mommies.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all having me, and thank you very much for what you do.
All right, have a good day, everybody. Bye.